Greater Works by Lillian de Waters, 1945. Quote, "Your divine romance has begun. Identification with the divine mind so complete that you will enter the perfect by the perfect and thus experience the all as unity. This is the greater works which the Bible promises. Your glory is now ever with you. Your divine expansion is without end." Lillian de Waters. Spiritual discrimination. Those who are prepared for these days await them with praise and thanksgiving and joyous expectancy. To us, the question is not if God is on our side, but are we on God's side? How shall we know? Very simply, do we have continuous light and illumination in our heart? Do we have love, unity, and freedom? Let each one answer these questions for himself. When one turns from human and mental help to God as the one who is all, spontaneously he enters into spirituality, reality, oneness. On the side of personality, one identifies himself as a man, a mortal, a human being living in a human existence. Here there are many ways of self-healing, many minds to be changed through self-thinking. There are many works, demonstrations, doctrines, many leaders, many followers. There is confusion, labor, disunity, strife. On the side of spirituality, we have illumination, which is our completeness, wholeness, harmony, and supply ever present. Day after day, we are filled with new light. Night after night, we enjoy sweet peace, security, and rest. Not only is it possible for us to receive the guidance of angels, but to see them as well. Quote, "He shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways." Psalm 91:11. In the realm of illumination, all these things are possible. For with God nothing shall be impossible. Luke 1:37. When we know the truth about God, it is God in us knowing the truth about himself. This relieves us of all personal sense. It is hard for one to know the truth about himself because it is himself that he is thinking of instead of God. God's ways are perfect. They are in continual operation. His sight is never dim. God supplies himself from out the infinitude of himself. God is all to himself. Himself is all there is of ourself. God is mind. Mind can never be deprived of itself. God is love. Love can never divorce itself. The place whereon we stand is the place where God is. God is his own safety, his own security, his own peace. Everything in himself is fully held by him. His whole universe of perfection and completeness is in him and he in it. God is his own illumination, his own revelation, his own heaven. We have always been God, for God is all there is. One becomes aware of this fact only as he stops serving other gods. Spiritual discrimination reveals thinking to have been the very reason for our sleep. Love for the one as the whole of us shall be our awakening. Here we are not in the flesh, but in the spirit. We are not of this world, but of the kingdom. Quote, Ye are not in the flesh, but in the spirit, if so be that the Spirit of God dwell in you. Romans 8:9. Quote, My kingdom is not of this world. John 18:36. We live where our illumination lives, in spiritual light, in spiritual love, in spiritual freedom, in spiritual wholeness, in spiritual existence. We know about God, who He is, what He is, where He is. We know about Christ, who He is, what He is, where He is. We know about us, who we are, what we are, where we are. We know the all to be one, and the one to be all. We know this because we are emptied of mental ways wherein there is no self-illumination. We know that our God, whom we love continually, He will deliver us. Self-knowledge has always been the theme of the illumined, who know and teach God and the self to be one. As long as one believes himself to be separate from God, he will remain mortal to himself. Sooner or later, everyone must release himself from a hypothetical mind of his own and turn unconditionally to God, identifying himself with God alone. Mental practice pertains to personal minds, thoughts, and conditions. Mental practice relates to a separateness which does not exist. Therefore, its curative ways of personal mind and thinking are temporal at their best, contributing a more comfortable human existence to some, but bearing no relation to the self-existent and ever-present things of spirit. Holding oneself separate from the one, even by a hair's breadth, is not close enough to Him who is our very life itself. Nothing is close enough but for us to be the one. Scriptures of all nations denote the word oneness to mean I am. Today, many are rushing hither and yon for the way to a security, a peace and refuge from fear and suffering. Man turning to man, man consulting man, man treating man, man healing man, man fearing man, man killing man. Quote, they know not what they do. Luke 23:24. Personality is a loom in which illusions are woven. Quote, what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Matthew 16:26. Our safety is in finding God within our heart, our own heart. Seek no other way. If one does not identify himself with the Infinite One alone, then in his darkened sense he sees another world which he wishes to have made over. Any vain attempt he makes to demonstrate over sickness or to destroy the evil he sees about him is but part of the veil he has put over his heart. When the veil is removed, he will see clearly. The spiritually illumined, knowing the nature of eternal things, do not seek for peace and security among the fleeting things of man and mind. They know the things of the real to be ever present, undefiled and undefilable. They know that God is all. They know that all is God. If one is devoid of spiritual discrimination, he fails to distinguish between mental practice, which concerns himself with personal minds and personal thinking, and the absolute way, which requires our renunciation of personal mind altogether and our identification with the one mind alone. Quote, we have the mind of Christ. 1 Corinthians 2:16. Personality is disunity, inequity, greed, distrust, diabolicalness, strife, fear. Synonymous words denoting separateness are the following: carnal, mortal, mental, human, material, mesmerism, mortal mind, devil, evil, hell. The word mental pertains to assumptive individual minds alone, their ways, doctrines, methods, and practice. The way of the one mind is the way of Christ. Surrender of the personal for identification with God alone. I and my Father are one. Darkness shall continue to appear in one's world until he surrenders personal ego and makes place in his heart for the living truth. Mental practice prolongs human bondage. It gives power to man when he has none. Quote, power belongeth unto God. Psalm 62:11. There is nothing mental in God. Freedom begins for one when he surrenders human thinking and in meekness and humility makes room for Christ's light. Then he enters the joy of the self. The shining light within him is his almighty power, his ever-present peace, and his imperishable glory. Personality is loyal to personality. It authorizes its own works. It is its own authority. Christ and personality cannot dwell together. Christ is oneness, allness, cosmic light, peace and glory. No one can heal an unreal thing. No one can change an unreal mind. No one can obtain heaven as an acquisition or translate human thinking into the mind of Christ. Those who have not yet identified themselves with the one mind as the only mind there is now or ever shall be, keep clamoring for greater healings, tangible proofs of what their minds can do. A sorry web one weaves when once he believes that of himself he can do anything. He should let go such vain ambition altogether, and looking toward the eternal heights, glimpse eternal things. Healed bodies, regenerated human beings, psychoanalyzed minds are unknown to God. How inconsequential the gain of any demonstrated thing in human existence compared to the richness, fullness, and brightness of spiritual things revealed to us in spiritual existence. Quote, "What shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us?" Romans 8:31.